Second, I count you in. Go.
Alright, I did Puss in Boots, and I went off the Grimm Brothers. The first slide has my hat designs. It was kind of too pointy, I felt like, because I wanted my character to be kind of soft, so eventually I turned it into a more rounder hat, like which we have in the final. And originally my two colors were the orangish tan and red, but I later switched the red to green, so that's why the feather's green in the last one. And then working on the face and how the hat was going to lay out, I didn't really like how the eyes looked. They just kind of popped too much and looked kind of freaky. So I went to no eyes, and then, as you can see, I started off with red at first, and then later changed it to green. And I felt with the ear in the second one, felt like it just looked off. So in the final, I had the ear hidden behind the hat. And then this is my final for Puss in Boots. This was the first slide. This scene depicts, it's a young boy. He had two other brothers. His father just passed away. The father left the windmill to his oldest brother, and then a donkey to the second oldest, and then for him a cat, and he was really jealous. He thought his gift of the cat was useless, even though the donkey was really old and the windmill was beat up. I just didn't really like the overall look of this. So I moved the house over and I added the woods in which where Puss would be hunting for the hares and rabbits. I also changed the look of the windmill to red, added the lines to make it look kind of beat up. And then I switched my color over to green, kind of just filled the page more, didn't look like it was just all white. Changed the fence to white so it popped a little bit more. Once again, had to go back and redesign the windmill. And then this is the final. There's a little bit more woods, show depth of it coming up. And then I beat up the house and the windmill by putting lines on it. And the reason the male character has all the kind of number signs on him is to make it look like he's beat up, because they're supposed to not be too well off. This was my second scene when Puss goes to visit the king and queen and bring them gifts. Those are my first concept designs for the rabbits. It just looked like a mess, so I switched those to those rabbits. They looked a little bit more like you can tell what they were. For the king and queen, I had just triangles. I want to keep them really simple. I used the color green, which is kind of like money, which I saw as power. I felt that the focus, though, was too much on Puss, and the king and queen just didn't stand out. So for the next scene, I switched them over. I tried making them all tan, but they kind of just looked naked, so I didn't really like that look. I also had Puss kind of look like he was bowing down to them. And then for the final, I made Puss a little smaller, which made king and queen pop a little bit more and look bigger. I also switched the bag towards facing them, so you kind of get led in the small part over there. And then I also had a window, just to add a little bit more of the scene. The last scene I did was when Puss goes and visits the ogre to see if he can take his castle. I really hated this first one. Kind of just seemed way too happy. It looked like the ogre was welcoming him into his house. It just didn't look well. So in the second one, I moved Puss over and I made the castle black. Again, I tried working on the design of the ogre. It still just looked funny and just too comical. So I switched into more triangles and just harsh shapes. But just having his body as the big triangle kind of just reminded me a lot of the king and queen. I didn't want them to be associated So for the final, I had a flip triangle over a rectangle and triangle, and it made his body just a lot more harsh and his face meaner looking. And then I shrunk Puss a little bit more just to show a huge size difference and shown how scary he was. And I also tilted Puss's hat the opposite way to make it look like he was looking up at the ogre. And that's it.
You want to put that in slideshow view so we have something to look at. Just put any one of the scenes up, and then people can ask to see a different one if they want.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
About your character for Puss, with the hat designs, but I noticed that once you showed the full character with the hat and the boots, you have geometric shapes for his cape and his boots, and then the rest of his body's ovals. What would have made more sense to me was to have that pointy hat as well, to keep that kind of consistency, like either the first one or the third one. I think I like the first one more. I just felt like, as far as like his outfit would go, I think it would have been better.
It would have been better with the pointy hat.
What do the rest of you think about that? You like that or not?
Well, we can't really see it, so I can't make a decision on that.
Luke, were you limited in the number of types of shapes you could use?
Yeah, we had used just basic geometric shapes.
But you could, within basic geometric shapes, there was a range that you could use there.
Yeah, they could use the elongated circles and the ovals and all of that. And then attempt mainly through positioning them and the addition of a few lines. But the idea is not to draw the characters. And they had examples from Molly Bang and the way she put them together. And
Are there brownie points for kind of less is more? Is there some encouragement of being economical or not necessarily?
They have to be able to defend what they did.
Okay.
So you can ask, questions that lead in that direction and see if Luke can defend what he has to say. You want to ask him something?
Well, just in response to the comment about the cat design, was there something in your mind in keeping the shapes, more oval?
I just felt like, because Puss helps out the son, he gets him to become a lord, and then he eventually marries the king's daughter. So I wanted him to not be too harsh of a character, so I tried to make him a little softer because he was helpful. But he also uses a lot of trickery because he tricks the ogre into turning into a mouse so that he eats the mouse and then takes the castle. So he did have a little bit of like trickery towards him, so I didn't want him to just be a perfect, fluffy character almost. I want to have a little bit of harshness.
So your association in the character design was that rounder shapes implied something more positive,
Yes,
and more severe angular shapes.
Yeah, to show his harshness that he can do what he needs to.
Doesn't the story actually wear boots?
Yes. In the first scene, when he is first given to the son, he asked for a hat, boots, and a cape, and then he said he'll be able to help him out.
All right, where's some more comments, questions about the decisions he did, or what was good, what wasn't?
Is that your final?
Yes, this is the final.
Why did you choose to change the windmill from a brick, like kind of line, then to
Simpler.
just the lines up and down?
I just felt with the brick one, just looked a little bit too busy and just took away from the two main characters. And I originally then had it just plain, put in the story. It's supposed to be an old kind of rickety windmill, so that's why I just added the lines to make it look old and tattered.
I just thought there's a lot of vertical lines going on, especially with the forest on the left, and then you have it on the house too. So, I mean, it looks good. Like, I understand what you're saying with the old rickety windmill idea, because I think it looks better that you cut out some of it.
Do you think going back to having less,
Just less of
And maybe less
having
trees.
less trees,
Yeah.
and then so like use this amount of trees and then have the lines so kind of balance it out more.
Yeah.
I actually really like that idea.
Mhm.
I think it would add a lot to it. Ravi?
I like how you like added the patchwork to like show how to use pattern and like forest, but I think you added too much and like it
Too much,
had
yeah.
the same effect if you took some of the markings away.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a bit much. Casey?
Going back to like the trees, when you added the second, like when you added more trees, I think the first one was better because like when you have the second ones, it kind of like right here, it kind of looks like you can see like the sizes of everything, like the proportions kind of fit together better than when you add the more trees because then it looks like he's almost
Just like a jumbled.
yeah, so he's like taller than now.
Ken?
Did you say that the windmill does not belong to that brother?
No, it belongs to the oldest brother.
Okay, because in this scene, it kind of like, because the windmill in the house matches the character, so it kind of implies that
It
it
looks
belongs as a group. And then, should the cat's cape, hat, and boots match him maybe because they're poor or something, so they're tattered, so maybe it'll.
So just beat those up a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't really put that into thought.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding this, but I would think, Luke, your answer would have to be no, because he gets these new, he didn't have them before.
Oh, he gets it new?
Yeah,
the
they
story,
didn't
he just
exist.
gives it
When he asks him for those things, he has to get those things for him. He hasn't been wearing them, right?
Okay, I just
So
thought.
I don't think they're going to be necessarily worn.
Okay, so then they should stay new?
It kind of depends upon how you're reading the story, I guess. But yeah, I would think the whole idea is the cat wants to be smartened out, a little bit. He doesn't want to look ordinary.
Okay.
So since he's just getting them, I don't know that we need to weather them in the same way.
I think
And
that
then-
makes a lot of sense, like,
Mhm.
because the windmill's passed down,
Mhm.
and the donkey's passed down, but the cat, you get a new boots, new hat.
Yes, the cat in essence is asking to be revitalized in the story. So that's how he can take on these new magical powers. Other questions and comments?
On that?
Replacement of person in the chat in the page and how he's like you have a nice movement in the background to the foreground and then is it a kid or is it just a man?
It's like a teenager boy.
He's just like there and it's a very dominant part of the composition and it kind of breaks the flow. At least that's how I feel. And which way is he facing? Is he facing towards us or towards?
He's facing towards us.
Okay. Alright.
I
Sure.
decided just to go faceless though, because I just didn't want to take away from the character of having too much facial features.
If I were you, I would try making him a bit smaller and moving him and Cat slightly towards the
Slightly.
right.
Towards the window,
Yeah, so then you have more.
so more
circular kind of motion.
Okay.
Did you have some suggestions for him?
No, the thing I was impressed by, could you go to the first ogre slide, to the first version?
Yeah.
The thing that I like hearing as you were talking about it is that when I looked at each version from the beginning to the end of what there were three,
Yeah.
You were looking critically at the design that you had and assessing it based upon kind of the character of the ogre, and he was kind of goofy and more comical, and you talked about it looked like he was welcoming him in. It does look like that, right? And then your next slide, you made a change in the design. So obviously you made some choices there that I thought were good ones in terms of making the character more menacing. I also like that kind of crooked door there. I thought that was kind of nice. And then your third, and then your fourth. You had a fourth, then I guess. Yeah. I mean, I thought the thing that I saw in that sequence was that each new version was better than the last. You were making. I think you've made some good critical decisions about storytelling and the character development in those, and so I like that. I thought that was.
And I like the fact that you really showed all of these, rather than trying to come back and say, well, the first time I did something differently. You've got your process work
Right.
in the
Right.
demonstration here, which
Yeah.
really helps.
I really like how, for the very first one, you kind of stayed away from the Shrek look,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the comical children's look to it, and went all the way, came back to the Brothers Grimm, so.
Yeah, it's like one and the same.
And really applying what Molly Bang has to say. If I'm getting more angles there for more menace, more sharp-pointed things, introducing more menace, and because this is a very brave little cat going up against a very mean big ogre. Other questions and comments?
Kenny?
What reinforced your color choices?
Originally I had the red just so I could have the cat have a red nose, and then later on in the first scene it just looked way too white, so I decided for the ogre to have him green, just because in my mind green tends to be kind of more scary, but also it would work well with the king because then you could refer it to money and power. Okay.
I really like the difference. Go back to the first slide of that. I like the difference that by flipping the triangle over mouth over, that made a huge difference in the way the owners perceive.
Yeah. Because in the first one it looks like he's smiling, and then it looks like it's a lot more menacing and scary.
Thank you very much, Rick. Very good.